December 2nd, 1984. Bhopal, India. It was a normal night in a city of nearly 1 million people. No one knew that a few miles away, a disaster was brewing. The plant was about to become a symbol of corporate negligence. Methyl Isocyanate, or MIC, is highly toxic, potentially deadly stuff. So, back to that fateful night. Due to a still debated series of events, some say it was negligence, some say faulty equipment, water entered a tank containing this MIC. Now, if you remember your high school chemistry, and let's be honest, who does? You know that mixing certain chemicals with water is a recipe for disaster, and disaster it was. The mixture of water and MIC caused a massive exothermic reaction. Basically, things got really hot, really fast. Pressure inside the tank skyrocketed, and before anyone could say Bhopal needs a new PR team, a safety valve, the one thing standing between a bad night and a catastrophe gave way. Toxic gas, invisible but deadly, started spewing into the night air.
It was around midnight when the people of Bhopal started realizing something was terribly wrong. A strange, acrid smell filled the air, stinging eyes and throats. People woke up coughing, their eyes burning. Animals dropped dead. Panic set in. Remember, this was long before smartphones and Twitter. Information was scarce and fear spread like wildfire.
The scene in Bhopal was apocalyptic. Thousands choked to death in their sleep. Hospitals overflowed with the sick and dying. Streets were littered with bodies. The immediate aftermath was chaos. The official death toll stands at around 3,800. Independent estimates put it closer to 10,000. The horror didn't end there. Tens of thousands suffered severe injuries. The gas affected everyone, from children to the elderly. Section 4. The Fallout. The Bhopal gas tragedy sent shockwaves around the world. It wasn't just a local disaster, it was a stark reminder of the human cost of corporate greed and the devastating consequences of lax safety standards, particularly in developing countries. The world watched in horror as the true extent of the tragedy unfolded.
Immediately, fingers started pointing. The Indian government blamed Union Carbide for its negligence, while the company tried to shift the blame, claiming sabotage by disgruntled employees. Sound familiar? It's the classic corporate playbook. Deny, deflect, and delay.
The legal battle was lengthy and complex. In 1989, Union Carbide agreed to a settlement with the Indian government, paying a paltry $470 million in compensation. That's right, $470 million for tens of thousands of lives lost and countless others ruined. To put that in perspective, that's less than some CEOs make in a year.
Section 5. Justice, maybe? The settlement was widely criticized as woefully inadequate and a travesty of justice. Many survivors felt betrayed by both the Indian government and Union Carbide. They felt like they'd been sold short, their suffering brushed aside for a quick settlement, and they were right to feel that way.
The fight for justice continued for years. Survivors and activists demanded higher compensation, accountability from Union Carbide executives, and cleanup of the contaminated site. They wanted someone held responsible, not just a corporation writing a check and walking away.
In 2010, a court in Bhopal convicted 7 former employees of Union Carbide India, limited of negligence, but they received relatively minor sentences. The fight for justice for the victims of the Bhopal gas tragedy continues to this day, a stark reminder of the human cost of corporate greed and the long, often frustrating road to justice.
Section 6. Bhopal's Shadow. The Bhopal gas tragedy is not just a historical event, it's a scar on the conscience of humanity. It's a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked industrialization, the importance of corporate accountability, and the long-lasting impact of environmental disasters. Over 3 decades later, the legacy of Bhopal lives on. The contaminated site remains largely untouched, a toxic reminder of that fateful night.
Survivors and their families continue to grapple with the physical and emotional scars of the disaster. Bhopal teaches us that the pursuit of progress cannot come at the cost of human life. It reminds us that corporations must be held accountable for their actions and that safety regulations are not mere suggestions but lifelines.
Most importantly, it compels us to remember the victims, to learn from their suffering, and to work tirelessly to prevent such tragedies from ever happening again. Bhopal is a story of corporate greed, government failures, and human resilience in the face of unimaginable tragedy. It's a story that demands to be told and remembered, so we can learn from our mistakes and strive for a world where profit never takes precedence over human life.